Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my story, Awakening into the Void by me, Simbala. This is part 6 of my story, and I will begin right now. So where I left off in the previous video, basically everything in life had hit me. You know, I was being hit from all angles, and at the time, of course, I was in the mindset of like, what is happening to me? Like, why me? Why all at once? Like, what the heck is going on? It's kind of like when we get to these places in our lives, where one negative thing is happening after the next, it's hard for us to gain a grasp on anything positive, but more or less like what is to come of this. It's really hard to look up from that space. Like, it's really easy to be in the mindset that like, what is next? What's like on edge, waiting for the second shoe to drop. So I didn't want to be in that mindset, but there was nothing I could do about it. So I was in my breakdown period. Breakdown, heartbreak, and for the longest I would call it a heartbreak, but I realized it's a heart opening. Heartbreak is heart opening. And what I believe too is that the harshness of life calcifies our hearts if we don't have protection, whether that be with family or a great spiritual belief or a strong sense of self. I do believe that our heart can calcify, harden, turn to stone, turn cold, if not tended to. And so all of those events in my life created that heartbreak, heart-opening experience. So I was just trying to continue to get by in life, just avoidance. We are so good as humans to avoid the issue. Like, everything's fine. There's a meme that circulates quite often of this little dog sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee, and a fire is blazing all around him, and he's just sitting there with an anxious smile on his face, like everything's fine, with his cup of coffee. And so it was that point that I was no longer going to be allowed to be in that state of denial and state of avoidance. Like I said before, circumstances beyond my control were brought to me to force me to self-analyze. So I continued to try to work, do all the things that I was, work, go to school, socialize with my housemates. But I was still feeling, I found out my childhood friend had died. I had plans to rekindle, to reconnect with her and rebuild our friendship. And, I lost one of my jobs, and it was already really difficult trying to maintain things with the with the income I was having. And, the other big blow, besides my friend dying, was me messing up my back. It was really bad. It was a very bad back injury. Like, I had very minimal movement that I could do, and it was like, when it happened, it was like an electric shock. Like, I literally saw stars when it happened. So I knew it was like some form of reflexology in the spiritual sense to like snap me and snap me into a state of contemplation, because it's like if you're immobile, you have to sit and think, so that's what is my belief about people, who get random injuries and stuff like that. They're signs that we're moving too fast, and we need to slow down. And not just moving too fast in the wrong direction. So sometimes things will happen to us to get us to slow down and think. So I wasn't in that mode. I was just in go mode. I gotta continue to do what I gotta do, I had only lost one other friend prior to that, and it was the same thing, just process it quick and go, and there's no room for really getting in touch with how that makes me feel. But one day I was trying to go about my day, and this was with another friend, and she and her boyfriend wanted to go to a cafe, so we all went there together. And as we were getting out of the car, I don't know what hit me, but I know what hit me. Everything that was going on in my life at that time hit me all at once. It was like finally the wave of feelings were coming, the tidal wave of feelings, and it just all hit me at once, and I just started breaking down in that parking lot. I just was bawling, crying. I couldn't even stand up. I fell to the ground, just bawling. And this friend at the time, I don't think she had the emotional capacity to even comprehend what I was going through. We weren't close enough for her to really be in tune with what was bothering me. And unfortunately, she was of no help at the time. She saw me in that broken down state and just kind of gave me a snide look, like it made her very uncomfortable, and she and her boyfriend just walked away. They left me there crying in the parking lot, and went into the cafe. And even that, made me break down even further, because it was just like the realization that I'm in this alone. Like, I don't have anybody. My family's up in Northern California, and all over the place. We're all kind of dispersed in different parts, and my best friends who I live with, who are amazing people, are great, but they're a couple, so they have each other, and it still leaves me to be the odd one out at times, and then this supposed friend I had just left me there to cry, and then the very first friend that I ever had, who I considered an angel, she is gone. And that's the part that really hit me more than anything. It was like, wow, like I had all these plans to rekindle my friendship with her, and it's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to happen. And I was just crying and weeping in the parking lot, and I was just looking up at this. I all of a sudden was led to look up at the sky, and it's a beautiful sky. It's just like all these really defined puffy clouds, I just unreal, like. And as I'm looking up at the sky, like the clouds start parting, and these beams of light, the sun comes through in just these beautiful beams of light. I'm getting goosebumps. And I got this message, like an inner knowing. It was like a sweep. It was unreal, like very mystical, and just, I don't want to say it. It was like I heard the voice. It's like I heard it in my feelings, like, and it said everything is going to be okay. Like, everything is going to be okay. And just like this huge sense of relief washed over me. It was really so phenomenal. I felt almost like my friend was talking to me through the clouds, you know. And her spirit was reassuring me in that moment. And I cried some more, but this time it was more tears of relief, release. And it gave me a sense of hope for the next step, even though I didn't know what it was going to be. It was just like, wow, like, I've been, you know, for so long just kind of not religious, not spiritual, just a non-believer. I wouldn't even call myself atheist, because to me atheism is still a religion to a degree, like any ism, you know. I guess at that phase in my life I would have considered myself agnostic, you know, just believing that anything is possible. Like, I'm not going to ascribe to any one particular belief, but I am going to be open to the possibility of anything. So the degree of spiritual belief I had was like believing in ghosts and you know, the spirit world and I don't know, demons and the dark the dark aspect of that, you know, concept, the spirituality. Everything that I thought I knew about it was all dark and scary, and you didn't want to go there. You didn't want to, you know, you don't want to mess with that stuff, you know. And the ideology around, you know, Christianity and Catholicism and exorcisms and stuff like that was a little too extreme for me as well. But just that moment, which was so natural and so raw and so unforced, it was brought to me in that very moment divinely, and it's nothing that can be, you know, replicated, nothing. It's just pure. It was a pure moment. And so that opened me up. That moment was like, okay, wow, like there's something beyond me, something greater than me, and maybe there is something beyond death too, you know. Maybe there is something that I can't see that is beyond this reality, something greater than me, something to look up to. So it was very, very, very magical to have that experience, and it really was my fuel to keep pushing further. And I did. I kept pushing further. I began to find things that I knew would not only lift my spirit, but feed my soul. So even though my back was so messed up, I would still volunteer on the farm and just do whatever I could, even if it was just minimal work where I didn't have to bend over. I was having to do a lot of like squatting, so it's like I can't bend my back, but I can like up and down squat like that. So I was having to do a lot of stuff like that. And having my hands in the earth, let me tell you right now, if you're having a crisis in any way, if you can get to a patch of grass, get to a tree, get to a creek, a river, the ocean, whatever, just some part of nature, it will immediately give you some relief. And so the farming was that for me. It was very therapeutic, and also it wasn't for me, it was a form of giving back. So to do something voluntarily felt very nice for me. It was really, it lifted my spirits. It made it tolerable to live in my house, because don't get me wrong, there was still funky things happening in the house every day. Every day there was something weird happening in the house. Light switches flickering, cold air in certain parts of the house that don't, for no reason. Our heater was not working the entire time we lived there. And we oddly had a fireplace in San Diego, which is so weird, and we used it. um, but the strange things started ramping up at the house, and it wasn't necessarily in our apartment, it was the building. Um, so in between me trying to, up my energy, I actually was exploring the neighborhood where my school was, and I found this mixed martial arts gym, and I just went in there and started talking to the guys there, and noticed they had a bunch of murals and artwork and stuff like that, and I was like, wow, like, this is amazing. I love this spot. And they had just opened, and I propositioned them. I said, hey, I'm an artist. If you have a wall, I will do a piece for you, like, I'll get the materials and everything. Just let me know if you're interested. And I showed them my artwork, and they bit. So I created this project for myself, basically volunteer, because I didn't get paid for it. But I started to develop this mural project at this gym that had just opened in the Gas Lamp in San Diego. And so that was another great project that, like, was pulling me out of my slump, and but I was starting to find all these weird things at the house. So one day I came home and I found a voodoo doll, or I don't want to call it a voodoo doll, but it definitely looked like a voodoo doll. And it was like, I think it was in the courtyard or just outside of the apartment, something like that. And I just found it to be so alarming because of the experiences we were having in the house, just like weird dreams, like me feeling like I'm getting taken over, negative experiences too, like almost like bad luck, type stuff. So it was so strange. So when I saw that doll, I was like, what the heck is this? So I thought, is somebody practicing like witchcraft in this building? Like, something is not right. And surely it wasn't. There was some strange activity going on in this building. And so I remember picking up the doll, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? Like, I need to get this out of here, So I was like, oh, maybe I'll throw it away. And I was like, no, don't throw it away, because you don't know, it might come back and end up on your porch or something. So then I was like, oh, I need to like burn it. And I was like, no, do not burn it. That's like the worst thing you could do. And this is this is all knowledge from like scary movies. That's the only reference I have about this kind of stuff, So my third instinct was to just throw it as far as far away as possible. And so that's what I did. I just threw it into like across the street or something like that. Just threw it away from our complex. And I just noted that, like, okay, maybe someone's doing like some weird witchcraft or something, because I just felt like the whole building was cursed. That was my thought. Like, this is a cursed building, I thought, we are in San Diego, one of those first mission cities in California, if you had to study the missions in third grade, most Californians, we had to study that in third grade, third or fourth grade. And San Diego is one of the first missions. And if you know anything about the missionaries that were on I believe they're Spanish, the Spanish missionaries that were on the West Coast, they were murderous. Murderous. They murdered so many Indians, natives, California natives, Mexican natives, and my intuition told me that that city is built on a bunch of bodies. It's built on a bunch of bodies, and my intuition told me specifically that neighborhood, Golden Hill, there's some dark history there. And I never looked into the history of San Diego, and I probably should, but that was my insight about that neighborhood and just about that city. And then there's also, it's a military city, so there's a massive military presence there. So I know that plays a part into it as well. So some of these speculations, I was like putting some pieces together and realizing like, I don't know about this place. Like, this is a leyland that might not be safe, and specifically not for me. It took me a little while longer to get to that point, but yeah, the voodoo doll was a trip, and something that followed that was also quite trippy. So on that note, I will wait for the next video to share that part. And I hope you all are doing well in this world today, and I send you my light and my love. And thank you for watching part 6. Have a good day.